So, I've explored the continent of Asia before in a countdown with the top 25 scariest Asian PSAs, but I've decided to specifically delve into South Asia and Southeast Asia, to give some variety. So yes, I'm aware my title in the announcement to vote for this video was a bit misleading, since I only called it the top 30 scariest South Asian PSAs, and it turned out being the top 50 scariest South Asian and Southeast Asian PSAs. But in my defense, if I only did read PSAs from the region defined as South Asia, this countdown would pretty much entirely consist of PSAs from India and Pakistan. That explanation aside, roll the intro.
คุณท่านคะข้าวต้มร้อนๆค่ะ
ฉันไม่กินละ
คุณท่านทำไมทำแบบนี้ล่ะคะหนูตั้งใจทำมาให้คุณท่านนะคะ
ฉันอยากกินอะไรที่อร่อยเป็นคำสุดท้าย
คุณท่านอยากจะกินอะไรคะเดี๋ยวหนูทำมาให้
ฉันอยากกินกวางตุ้งน้ำมันหอย
ผักกวางตุ้ง Bok choice มี Bok choice ไหมคะ
อ๋อกวางตุ้งเหรอไม่มีหรอก
ฮะอะไรนะ
ไม่ใช่หน้ามันหาทั้งตลาดก็ไม่มีหรอก
แล้วฉันจะหามันได้ที่ไหนล่ะคะป้า
ไปตามดิเรกชันนี้
กวางตุ้ง Bok choice
กวางตุ้งน้ำมันหอย
กวางตุ้ง Bok choice
กวางตุ้ง
กวางตุ้งBok choice ไหมคะ
ฮะ
ผักกวางตุ้งอะค่ะลุง
ก็เหยียบอยู่นั่นไงแล้ว
ทำไมมันเล็กจังอะ
ไม่ใช่หน้ามัน
แต่คุณท่านอยากกินกวางตุ้ง
กวางตุ้ง
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 กวางตุ้งกวางตุ้งกวางตุ้ง
กวางตุ้งอะกวางตุ้งลุงเข้าใจหรือไม่อะ
ลุกขึ้นมา
หนูจะไม่ยอมลุกจนกว่าลุงจะทำกวางตุ้งให้หนู
กล้องอยู่ตรงนี้ครับ
โดนบังคับแบบนี้แล้วจะทำไงได้เอาละลุงจะทำให้
จริงนะลุง
แต่ว่าลุงไม่อยากให้หนูได้รู้ได้เห็นอะไร
ได้ค่ะลุง
ผักนอกฤดูแม้จะดูสวยแต่เสี่ยงมีสารเคมีที่อันตรายปลอดภัยกว่าแค่หันมากินผักให้ตรงตามฤดูกาลผลักดันให้ผักนำ
In keeping with the tradition of starting off a countdown with a really lighthearted PSA, I figured I'd start off with this one. And I must say, this is one of the most surreal PSAs I have ever watched, but also one of the funniest as well. This maid went above and fucking beyond for her master, who wanted nothing more than bok choy with oyster sauce. And the PSA has such Japanese commercial energy too, which I always love to see. Although it doesn't make any fucking sense until the end, this is still one of my favorite PSAs.
Wow, Ben's been gambling a lot lately. Maybe I should do something. Nah, what's the worst that can happen?
Come on, please, security! No gambling!
At most, he'll get thrown out of school and kicked out of the house.
Expelled for gambling? You get out of my house now!
And then I'll have to start taking care of him. Lending him money again and again. Until he finally steals my credit card for illegal online gambling.
Looks like we've got one! Send in the team! Go, go, go!
Behind me, the SWAT team is preparing to raid the flat of a suspected illegal online gambler.
Please, don't move!
And I'll get thrown in jail! Maybe I will do something.
Stop it!
Don't let gambling become a problem. Take action now.
Another really over-the-top but still lighthearted PSA, and one it's been a hot minute since I've talked about. The over-the-top nature of this PSA is why I love it so much, but the voice acting is probably my favorite part of the PSA, especially the parts where Ben's mom yells, "Expelled for gambling? You get out of my house! Now!" And the surprisingly soft-spoken SWAT team running to the flat. It's a great PSA that shows just how much a gambling addiction can spiral without scaring the viewer.
好像我有东西放在这里耶。
那你的收据呢？
我不记得放在哪里啦。
你寄放了什么？
我不清楚哎，好像一件外套，不，像一个背包，我不清楚。不要，我要走了。
These are probably the tamest PSAs I've ever seen that were made by this organization. They're not scary or sad, just funny as we see grandmas, grandpas, and toddlers at house parties and raves. Not gonna lie, that grandpa in the second one has moves. He's rocking the dance floor. I don't get why this PSA is dissing him, of all people. I guess bitches always want to be haters, but don't you dare expect this to be the norm for PSAs from Partnership for a Drug-Free Singapore. It only gets worse from here.
Come on, babe, it'll be fun. I know this great little Italian place. You, me, a bottle of vino. Trust me, come on. After tonight, you'll never want to be here.
As lighthearted as this PSA is, it's still something that makes me feel pain as someone who is biologically a dude. Thankfully, I've never ended up catching my dick or balls up in the zipper of my pants. You know, back when I still wore pants instead of the hoodie and skirt that have since become synonymous with me. But, well, the mood of it is rather lighthearted. That scream was one of sincere pain. That's a guy's worst nightmare. Zipping up his dick, or even worse, his ball sack in the zipper of his pants. Certainly one way to make this metaphor, I suppose, making anyone with a dick and balls wince.
พี่ขอไฟหน่อย ขอไฟหน่อย
ไม่ให้ฮะจ่าเลย
มันมียาฆ่าแมลงอยู่ในเมมบุหรี่ด้วยนะดูดแล้วหน้าแก่นะ
สูบบุหรี่เดี๋ยวก็ตายเร็วไม่อยากอยู่เล่นนานๆแล้วมันไม่ดีรู้เปล่าสูบแล้วเป็นทั้งมะเร็งปอดร่วมโป่งพองเส้นเลือดในสมองแตก
ไม่ดีแล้วพี่ดูดทำไมล่ะคะ
This PSA has a premise that's funny on paper. Kids ask smoking adults for a light, and obviously, the adults warn the kids of the dangers of the habit and discourage them from doing it. It's one of the more heartwarming PSAs on this list, and arguably one of Thailand's most effective PSAs of all time, but the muted color scheme and piano music, as well as the shock these adults have, do make this PSA slightly unsettling. This is such a good PSA. Sure, it's a little creepy, what with its soundtrack and dark lighting, but it's got a nice bittersweet ending, and it's such a creative premise for a PSA, using toys as a metaphor for how your organs can take on new life in someone else even after you die if you register to be an organ donor. I love the way this PSA is executed too, and no, not just because I can make a "this is how imagination works for young kids" joke. Goodness, that's an off-putting twist. At first, this seems like a wholesome PSA about disability acceptance, showing people with amputations living happy, fulfilling lives, a lot of them being kids. But it's a quick and abrupt mood whiplash when we reveal all these amputations were caused by drunk driving. It's one of the more light-hearted PSAs here on the subject, but it's still incredibly darkly comedic. I'm not sure if this PSA was supposed to be scary or darkly comedic, but this isn't exactly the type of music I would have gone with if it was supposed to be the former. I get what this PSA was trying to do, using a firing squad as a metaphor for the damage smoking causes to your body, but the music sounds more suited to a badass action western trailer than a PSA where we see a smoker executed by firing squad. Well, what do we have here? Gentlemen, ladies, and fellow non-binary daisies, we have our first truly unsettling PSA of the countdown. This starts off innocent enough with a man walking off with a little girl until it's halfway revealed that this is not her father, but a complete fucking stranger who's going off to do God knows what with her. A little odd that this is sponsored by HP, the very company that made the laptop I made this video on, but it's still an incredibly creepy PSA.
The prosecution has proven its case against you beyond reasonable doubt. I find you guilty on the charge of consumption of ketamine, a controlled drug, and you're hereby sentenced to 12 months in prison.
Another tame partnership for a drug-free Singapore ketamine PSA? Well, this one's actually sad as it's revealed this woman isn't the one who's on trial for taking ketamine. It's her fucking son! It makes a very poignant point that, like many other actions, drug use doesn't only affect the user. And this may seem like a heavy punishment for consuming ketamine, but considering this is Singapore, the son actually got lucky to only get a year in prison.
You might not know it, but there's a threat to your baby lurking in the most ordinary things. It's called rotavirus, and it could lead to hospitalization. Prevent rotavirus. The first 6 months is the time to protect your baby. Don't miss the chance. Ask your doctor.
Well, holy shit, I think I'll be seeing this bear in my nightmares tonight. Holy shit, and I thought Monokuma was the most evil teddy bear, but this thing would make him shit himself. Someone needs to perform a goddamn exorcism on this teddy bear, like holy shit. Well, thank goodness for the mother saving her baby from this thing before it put the baby in the obituary section.
Channel V presents a step-by-step guide to make your own cigarette in the comfort of your own home. Take a dash of toilet cleaner from the loo, battery fluid from your dad's car, TDT from the local pest control man, a dash of regular rocket fuel from your nearby NASA outlet, some regular cyanide from your chemist, a dash of nail polish remover from your sister's makeup kit, a fistful of mothballs from your cupboard, a pinch of candle wax from your last birthday, industrial solvent from your uncle's factory, a cap full of phenol from your kitchen, some formalin from your science lab, and finally, some nicotine for flavor. Mix them well, choose your tobacco, add solution to taste, mix them well again, take some paper, roll tightly, put in a filter, and you have your very own cigarette!
Funny enough, this is probably still less dangerous and stupid than a lot of the so-called life hacks shown on 5-Minute Crafts. Also funny how this narrator just seems to assume that the people watching have a chemist next door. Though I admit, the reason this is a little high up on the list is because, well, it is pretty disheartening to hear a man hacking up a lung. Pretty solid PSA despite its goofiness, though. a PSA that's been copied by multiple companies, most notably Mothers Against Drunk Driving in Canada. But it's understandable why. This PSA has one of the best executions, in my opinion, using empty glasses as a visual metaphor for how alcohol impairs both your vision and judgment. By the way, the former effect is due to the fact that alcohol causes blood sugar levels to spike, and it also slows the communication between your eyes and brain, and relaxes the muscles around the eyes. Basically, if you consumed enough alcohol, you'd see like me when I don't have my glasses on. And no, we do not bring up the fact that I only started wearing them in videos as of a month ago. Continuity only recently started being a thing in this series. The five-finger fillet is already something that makes me nervous when I watch it, but somehow this PSA made it even more unsettling. It doesn't help that the sound of the knife stabbing into the table is all we hear before this dude comes dangerously close to cutting himself. It's still a pretty solid metaphor for speeding, since both driving and the five-finger fillet are activities that become increasingly dangerous the faster you perform them. Don't get me wrong, this PSA is one of the most depressing ones I've ever seen, low budget CGI aside. Truth is, if the CGI weren't on such a low budget, it'd be even more depressing since, well, we see this dog treated horribly, even fucking poisoned. It should come off as complete and utter narm due to the low budget CGI, which was probably still very expensive considering this is from Nepal. It isn't because of the other chilling factors in the story. It's just more depressing than scary to me. This PSA is here for one reason, and one reason in particular. That fucking crunch. Of course, the rotted inside of the orange is nasty too, but that crunch is fucking sickening. I don't think any noise in a PSA will ever make me cringe as much as that crunch does.
Mommy's making yummy dinner inside. Beep beep. Brr. Daddy has come home. Good night, Mama. Daddy has come to do a special good night.
Holy shit, that got dark. It's pretty tame considering the PSA's subject matter, but that twist still horrifies me considering the kid is role-playing her life. Never would I imagine I'd be disturbed by the mere sight of two knockoff Little People figurines on top of each other, but here I am, I suppose. One of the most minimalistic yet creepy PSAs of all time. I mean, the silence is deafening in this one, which further highlights the creepy actions of the cursor and the point that this PSA is trying to make, that being, well, she didn't feel a thing. Many children do at the hands of sick fucks like the one behind the cursor. Nasty and unsettling, but effective. Well, this was hard to listen to. All the cries are heartbreaking. Especially that last one, where a baby is in severe distress and screaming horrifically. The cries are even more disconcerting, considering they're the only fucking audio in this entire PSA, and we don't fucking know the backstories of the cries, aside from the implied fact that they're from people involved in accidents caused by use of a cell phone while driving.
Ecstasy. Ever wondered what it does to your brain?
Honestly, go ahead, at me on this one. After all, these lists are my opinion at the end of the day. And I personally never found this one all that scary compared to the other PSAs by Partnership for a Drug-Free Singapore. It's unsettling, yeah, hearing a brain turned into liquid by a blender as a metaphor for the brain damage ecstasy causes. But I personally just view it as a more extreme ecstasy-specific version of This Is Your Brain on Drugs, a nice brain smoothie to go with the fried egg brain.
Yang dipinda pada tahun 1983 mengenakan hukuman mati mandatori. Mahkamah tidak mempunyai pilihan melainkan mengenakan hukuman mati. Ketahuilah, mengikut Akta Dadah Berbahaya 1952, takrif pengedaran dadah meliputi kegiatan membuat, menjual, menyimpan, mengimport dan juga kegiatan-kegiatan seperti berikut: mengekspor, mengurus, mengangkut, membawa, menyembunyi, menghantar, membekal. Jika anda dijumpai dengan kurang dari 15 gram heroin atau kurang dari 1 kilogram candu masak atau kurang dari 200 gram ganja, anda boleh dikenakan hukuman maksima, penjara seumur hidup. Dan juga anda akan disebat dengan rotan tidak kurang dari 6 kali sebatan. Dan jika anda dijumpai dengan 15 gram atau lebih heroin, 15 gram atau lebih morfin, 15 gram atau lebih campuran heroin dan morfin, 1 kilogram atau lebih candu mentah atau candu masak, 200 gram atau lebih ganja, anda akan dianggap di sisi undang-undang sebagai pengedar dadah, dan jika anda didapati bersalah, akan dihukum gantung sampai mati. Awas, mengedar dadah adalah satu kesalahan yang paling berat di sisi undang-undang. Hukuman yang menanti anda adalah maut. Jauhilah diri anda dari dadah.
From what I heard, this scared many Bruneian and Malaysian kids in the 80s, and I can absolutely understand why. Even if it's just your average legal warning, it's done in an incredibly menacing way that doesn't sugarcoat any of the hell on earth that the Malaysian government will rain down on you if you are caught with drugs. At the very least, you will face life in prison and a caning, but you could face the ultimate price by hanging, which is still Malaysia's execution of choice, which is demonstrated ever so menacingly by including the tagline inside a news. And you bet your balls they weren't bluffing, since this was made at the time of the Barlow and Chambers drug smuggling case. Such a great bait and switch PSA. It starts out leading us to believe it's an AIDS PSA, and then boom, fiery car crash. Quite an interesting way to play on the fears surrounding AIDS at the time, asking why such an amount of fear isn't applied to speeding as well when it's just as deadly. Don't press your luck, fellas. Take protective measures both in the bedroom and on the road. Well, these are unsettling to say the least. Babies and toddlers' faces in videos of happy moments superimposed on the bodies of junkies going through hell because of their addictions. It's beyond unsettling, especially the second one. Though I'd say all three of these ads are equally creepy in their own ways, just the general atmosphere kinda runs chills down my spine.
I remember feeling really warm and peaceful. All my troubles seemed suddenly small. It was like I was being taken care of. Like everything would be okay. I could just sleep and smile. That's what it felt like the first time I tried heroin.
I see a lot of people say this PSA is tame by Partnership for a Drug-Free Singapore standards, and to an extent I agree, but it's still pretty creepy. Initially, it comes off as promoting heroin, saying it'll make you feel real good and stuff like that, but seeing as how he becomes more shaky in speech at the end, it's clear his addiction has ruined him. The true horror of this PSA lies in the implications I personally saw. That being, our man here was seeking some form of comfort from the world that gave him so much trouble and inadvertently got himself into one of the hardest addictions to beat. Though then again, while I never tried heroin and don't have any plans to, I can't say strained relationships with my parents and a lack of motherly love didn't make me do things I normally wouldn't have. Started with mommy issues, ended with me being a furry into motherly types and maids. Do I regret it? I don't even know anymore.
You're waiting for someone?
My mother.
Me too.
Jangan abang.
Son, Mami kêu nè. Hả? Giờ mấy chín hả?
Shot.
It's okay.
She says she loves you.
பசிக்குதா? சாப்பாடு கொண்டாந்துருக்கேன். சாப்பிட்றீங்களா?
எல்லாமே முடிஞ்சு சாப்பாடு.
ஆமா. ஆனா நீங்க உயிரோடு இருக்கிறீங்களா? நாம அதிர்ஷ்டக்காரங்க.
Wow.
Don't break my heart.
I remember seeing this PSA when I was first getting into PSAs, and it's one of the saddest things I've ever seen. Sure, there are some graphic shots of gangrenous feet, rotted mouth, and people struggling for breath, but this PSA is more sad than scary. Mostly because I have first-hand experience of watching a lot of my relatives succumb to cancer caused by smoking, and it broke my heart. And that reveal near the end that a nurse in this hospital is the one the older man was waiting for. The implications that if he smoked those cigarettes he picked up, the nurse may have had to watch her son die from the habit. are horrifying.
Không yêu phải hãm họ nên là bà tướng ở phải rất là ám mặn hành lưng thế là bên người này bên này có người
Well, this was depressing. The graphic scars that cover this man's body alone will haunt my nightmares, but it's always sad to see someone dying desperately urge smokers to quit. He talks very frankly about the procedures done to remove his cancers and rebuild him, and it's hard to watch, but it's a necessary lesson, and I thank some kid for giving this testimony before he passed away.
Ôi anh Trinh ơi,ขี่มาดีๆแท้ๆแกเป็นไงบ้างอะ
สวยดิหัวฟาดพื้นเนี่ยคิดว่ากะโหลกคงแหลกอะแล้วแกเป็นไงบ้างอะ
ฉันก็กระโหลกแตกเหมือนแกแหละโอ้ไม่น่าพาแกมาสวยด้วยเลย
เฮ้ยอย่าคิดมากเพื่อนสวยก็สวยด้วยกันได้ยินแต่คำว่าสวยต้นเหตุมันอยู่ที่ไม่สวมหมวกกันน็อกอย่าโทษสวยโทษตัวเองเรื่องเป็นไงเนี่ยอ๋อก็ผมขับออกมาจากซอยอ่ะแล้วคุณน่ะก็ขี่ทางนี้ประจำใครจะโง่ไปยูเทิร์นให้เสียเวลาแต่วันนี้ดันซวยปกติขับออกมาผมมองขวาว่างเราก็ไปเท่านั้นแหละได้ยินเสียงโครมทางซ้ายก็บอกไงพี่ว่าซวยใช่ซวยต้นเหตุอยู่ที่ขี่ย้อนสอนอย่าโทษซวยโทษตัวเองแยกนี้ชนประจำใครขับมาก็ซวยคนนี้สวยป่ะคนนี้ช็อกไม่ได้สวยคนนี้สวยป่ะสวยครับเอ๊ะทำไมเราลุกไม่ขึ้น
ลูกแม่พี่ทำไมลูกแม่สวยอย่างเงี้ยสวยจริงๆ
สวยอะไรต้นเหตุมันอยู่ที่ดื่มและขับอย่าโทษสวยโทษตัวเอง
A simple premise, bad luck being blamed for accidents that could have very well been prevented had the people driving obeyed the rules of the road. They're all around the same amount of darkly comedic, with the dead people having grotesque injuries, blaming their fate on bad luck. But truck is arguably the worst one because of the struck person's grotesque expression as he's sandwiched between his bike and truck as his horrified mother shows up. Okay, I can officially say that after Brits and South Africans, Thais are the third most talented when it comes to using dark humor in PSAs.
Good ออกขวากันลงห้องกะเบรกบ่เบรกรถ10 ล้ออยู่ตั้งหน้าเบรกรถกับความกะเบรกแกปอกหิงดังกะเอาอีก
ชีวิตจริงไม่มีเวลาคิดนานขนาดนี้
TV tropes, you're great for finding PSAs, but this was supposed to be played for laughs. I don't get it. I suppose one could find the argument these two have about the best way to survive funny, but keep in mind, this is a PSA where a couple get struck by a truck head-on and die. Granted, it's from their own stupid decision to try and cut ahead of a truck in their lane, but still, it reminds me of mistakes from New Zealand's transport agency, which has a similar premise, but this predates that PSA by 9 years.
ชายคนนี้กับเด็กคนนี้
แม่อยู่ไหนแม่
คุณเห็นใจใครมากกว่ากัน
แม่อยู่ไหน
ถ้าคุณยังคิดไม่ออก ดูนี่ หรือแค่คุณคิดจะไม่ดื่ม
One of the most heartbreaking ads I've ever seen. The boy lost his mom to a drunk driver, seeing her die right in front of him, no less, and he doesn't seem to understand the concept of death yet. Sure, the driver is just as pitiful, but he somewhat still has the same life without his hands. He just takes longer to eat now. It's absolutely brutal in terms of horror and being a tearjerker, though I have a feeling we'll be seeing a lot more PSAs like this on this countdown.
ये पैगाम अवाम की खिदमत में वजारत कानून व इंसाफ पाकिस्तान ने पेश किया है।
ये कोई वक्त है बेटी के घर आने का? ये कोई वक्त है बेटी के घर आने का? इसके चाल चलन ठीक नहीं लग रहा है।
कॉलेज के लड़कों से ज्यादा दोस्ती नहीं है तुम्हारी बेटी की?
जरा नजर रखा करो बेटी पर, ये तुम्हारा मुंह काला करवाएगी। पता नहीं किन किन गाड़ियों में घूमती रहती है।
उसके चाल चलन ठीक लग रहा है। कॉलेज के लड़कों से ज्यादा दोस्ती नहीं है तुम्हारी बेटी की?
जरा नजर रखा करो बेटी पर, पता नहीं किन किन गाड़ियों में घूमती रहती है। इसके चाल चलन
हाँ बस ये खाना इधर रखते हैं, आप बलून्स अपने पास ही रखें। इतनी खामोशी क्यों हो रही है? सिद्रा कहाँ गई? 1 मिनट में देख के आती हूँ।
हाँ ये ठीक है। बलून्स तुम अपने पास रखो। आ जाओ आ जाओ आ जाओ आ जाओ आ जाओ आ जाओ।
कहाँ हो अशफाक मियाँ?
क्यों किया ये सब? क्यों किया?
तू दूसरों के साथ रेस्टोरेंट में जाती थी रोज, गाड़ी में देर देर से आती थी, वो लोगों की बातें, गाड़ी
जुनैद की गाड़ी थी वो। फर्स्ट आई थी हमारी बच्ची मैट्रिक के इम्तिहान में। कितने खुश होंगे मेरे बाबा मेरे ये अवार्ड सीख। क्या किया तुमने? क्यों किया तुमने?
तुम्हें समझ नहीं, मुझे हैरत है, कत्ल में कौन सी गैरत है। गैरत के नाम पर कत्ल कानूनन जुर्म है। 2016 के तरमीमी बिल के मुताबिक गैरत के नाम पर कत्ल की सजा सजाए मौत है। कत्ल करने वालों को खानदान वाले सिर्फ उस सूरत में सजाए मौत से बचा सकते हैं अगर मुल्जिम पिसास या दियत देने पर राजी हो जाए। इसके बावजूद उसे 14 साल की कैद लाजमी होगी।
This PSA tackles the unfortunately common practice of honor killings in one of the most chilling ways possible. A huge misunderstanding leads to a father murdering his own fucking daughter due to him thinking she's engaged in premarital sex, which would, I guess, bring shame to his family. And it's clear the situation leading up to this horrific deed done in the name of honor did indeed drive him to insanity, seeing as how when this situation is clarified and he's realized what he's done, he's horrified, as anyone who killed their own daughter over a misunderstanding would be. It's not a particularly bloody PSA, and it doesn't need to be in order to be chilling, because it perfectly depicts how social standards and the desire to protect the honor of one's family can drive someone to insanity.
Everyone is coming, please. Place everybody's condition.
First thing a freshie song. And there's no way music here.
This PSA has so many creepy layers that I only noticed upon multiple listens. It's quite the work of surreal, trippy sound design, and trust me, I'm a Dariacore and hyperpop enjoyer, so I'd know the work put into sound design that comes off as cacophonous. The music itself is quite unsettling, as is the faint voiceover that accompanies the words on screen telling you how heroin cut with bleach will make you itch so much you bleed. And if you know what bleach does to your body tissue, you'd know that itching could be the least of your worries. For those of you that don't know, bleach in strong enough amounts can cause chemical burns, and if you were to inject that shit into your bloodstream, well, you would essentially burn yourself alive from the inside. This makes the PSA all that more horrifying, since the itching is most likely the result of chemical burns induced by a drug being cut with bleach. This PSA is just as gross as it is unnerving. Granted, I was aware humans can expel waste in other ways if their intestines or bowels shut down, due to the fact that I went through a phase where I was obsessed with medical oddities, and also found out that what is demonstrated in the South Park episode Red Hot Catholic Love, that being literally spewing shit out one's mouth, is possible. But I was unaware prior to seeing to this PSA that heroin withdrawal would shut down one's digestive system to the point where waste would be released in sweat. And if it weren't for the creepy noises and general grimy atmosphere of the PSA, the fact that the sweaty actor licks their lips when this fact was revealed made me wince.
คุณยายคะ เดี๋ยวพรุ่งนี้อุ่มจะไปโรงเรียนแล้วอะค่ะ งั้นเดี๋ยวอุ่มไปซื้อสมุดกันนะคะ แล้วเดี๋ยวจะตามไปค่ะข้ามถนนระวังรถนะลูก
มีน้ำใจให้คนเดินเท้าบ้างเถอะครับ
I've taken the Lord's name in vain quite a few times throughout this video, but Jesus Christ! I've seen a lot of shocking PSAs in my going on 8 years of being a fan of them, and normally I'd find a person getting yeeted by a car funny, but in this case it's anything but normy. We literally just watch an old woman get run over by a car in front of her granddaughter. Well, this is one somber way to start off the school year, kid. You just saw your grandma get hit by a dumbass speeder. If I had a nickel for every time a Southeast Asian PSA took the phrase "you're killing yourself by smoking" to an extreme, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but I still find it weird that I've observed this twice. Well, it's at least better done than cheaper ways. Mostly because it doesn't actually fucking encourage suicide. Well, this is definitely one of the more jarring PSAs, mostly because of that bloody headshot, but also because the gun sounds are the loudest part of this otherwise pretty much silent PSA, making that gunshot seem even louder than it actually is.
Mahal na mahal talaga ako ni nanay. Tingnan niyo, oh, bago lahat ng gamit ko. Ang ganda-ganda ko. Maraming salamat, nanay. Nay?
Report online sexual exploitation of children. Dahil ang human, hindi laruan.
Nanay!
I feel like this is a running theme in this countdown, that there's gonna be a shit ton of mood whiplashes. Because, sweet Jesus, this is one of the sickest ones I've ever seen. Well, this mom is quite the candidate for Mom of the Year. Here's the thing. All these nice things won't buy your daughter her childhood back from all the sick fucks you decided to pimp her out online to. I was already aware of this statistic that most people who commit crimes against children are in some way close to their victims, but Jesus, the fact that this little girl still has faith in her mother after all that's been done to her is heartbreaking. Jeez, and I thought Sweat was grimy. This one takes it up to 11. No, fuck that. 110, with the grimiest, most horrifying bathroom I've ever seen. Now, I have a slight but still noticeable fear of germs, hence why public bathrooms are pretty much a no-go for me unless I absolutely have to anyway, but this would put me off them for a long-ass time if I wasn't already disgusted by the state of most of them. And well, if this looks more like a torture chamber than a bathroom to you, the casual viewer of this video, that's because to someone shitting their guts out from heroin withdrawal, it might as well be one. Oftentimes, the worst part of an addiction is quitting it, and it's demonstrated best here.
My step-uncle was the first one to abuse me. Next day, the brutal owner. Other men pimped me. Some took my pictures. There were foreigners. I had many customers. The last one probably gave me AIDS. I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to do it anymore.
Stop child prostitution. Keep the children away from AIDS. Report child abuse cases to Bantay Bata 163.
I feel so fucking bad for this girl. She's gone through stuff no child should at the age of fucking 11. Her sick step-uncle started this horrible cycle, and then the equally sick owner of the house she lived in decided to team up with this sick fuck to make a profit off destroying her childhood. And all she got from it? AIDS, most likely. May all be conveyed by stick figures and scribbles, but that only adds to the horrifying nature of this PSA, in my opinion.
Tingnan mo ang mga bata. Umiiyak sa kalupitan. Nasasaktan. Napagsasamantalahan. Humihingi ng saklolo. Itigil ang pang-aabuso sa mga bata. Nasa kamay mo ang kanilang kaligtasan.
Fun fact about this not-so-fun PSA. For the longest time, well, at least around 6 years anyway, and that's a pretty long time in internet years, this was one of the most sought-after pieces of lost PSA media, and one of the most sought-after pieces of Filipino lost media in general. And well, when a PSA is so disturbing it becomes lost media for 6 years, it's gotta be heavy. And while having seen this thing, I must say, it lives up to the hype. The dolls themselves are creepy enough when they change expressions after, a hand, crushes the shit out of them. But the cries of pain are what is really haunting, as is the ending that these dolls, after enduring this abuse, are simply thrown away like they're nothing. Jesus, the implications of the doll pile alone are horrifying. Not to mention the scratched wall-esque font the PSA's tagline uses. Normally, I'm not freaked out by fonts, especially edgy ones like that, but given the context of this PSA, yeah, it's freaky. And this was shown during fucking National Children's Month, which for Filipinos is October, so chances are quite a few children in the late 90s in the Philippines saw this and had nightmares.
Hundreds of women in Pakistan fall victim to acid violence. Now the government has passed a law making acid-related crimes punishable by life imprisonment and a fine of 1 million rupees. Join us as we spread the word and help those affected.
मैंने कुछ थोड़ी किया है, अपने ऊपर खुद ही फेंका हुआ। आवारा थी, ज़हनी मरीज थी, गुस्सा बहुत आता था उसे। मैंने कुछ नहीं किया।
Hundreds of women in Pakistan fall victim to acid violence. Now the government has passed a law making acid-related crimes punishable by life imprisonment and a fine of 1 million rupees. Join us as we spread the word and help those affected.
Easily Pakistan's scariest PSAs of all time. The first one for the woman's graphic injuries as the result of an acid attack, which is unfortunately a common crime in Pakistan to this day, despite the heavy sentence it carries, and also for the violent rage against her reflection. It's clear why this woman hates her face now. It's a constant reminder of what her abuser destroyed. Then the second PSA. The man clearly has no remorse for what he's done, even laughing about it and mocking the woman he's ruined the life of. And together, these PSAs tell a horrifying story that I think makes its point pretty goddamn well.
I sometimes wonder, what damage will this cigarette or bidi do? Will this be the one that causes a stroke, that makes me a burden on my family? Or will it start lung cancer growth? Will this cause mouth cancer or heart disease? Or bring emphysema closer? Next time you reach for your cigarette or bidi pack, ask yourself, what damage will this cigarette or bidi do? Quit tobacco today. For help, call 1-800-112356 or give a missed call on 011-22901701.
Holy shit, this is some of the most graphic medical imagery I have ever seen in an anti-smoking PSA. No punches, and I mean absolutely no punches, are pulled in demonstrating just how much smoking can ruin you. Those gasps from the emphysemic man near the end are absolutely haunting, since it's clear he's in constant pain struggling to breathe from the condition. This would make me scared to even look at a cigarette pack if I saw this as a kid. They didn't even fucking need to show a heart being operated on.
Akala ko po kasi hindi na po bubuto. Pinulot ko. Biglang sumabog. Binili ko sa tindahan. Hindi ko naagis agad. Sumabog.
Yung pansin din na plapay na yagis ko, sa akin sumabog.
Pagsindi ko sa akin sumabog!
Taon-taon, higit 1,000 buhay ang apektado. Mahalaga ang buhay. Iwasan ang paputok. Isang paalala mula sa inyong DOH.
Dear God, where was this PSA when I did that top 10 scariest fireworks PSAs countdown? And I thought the Dutch had some horrifying fireworks safety PSAs. Well, okay, the Dutch did make Operation, which I'd say is scarier than this, but these are still some incredibly graphic injuries depicted on kids, no less. And judging from the context, these fireworks just exploded shortly before we see each boy tell us what happened. Yeah, I'm definitely glad I played it safe with the firework I had in my room and decided to set it off outside on the ground. Otherwise, something like this could have been my fate.
No place to hide, nowhere to run to. Open me up, tear me apart. Just play me over and over and over and over and over and over again.
I talked about this one a couple weeks ago in my remake of the Scariest Domestic Violence PSAs countdown, and my point still stands. It's one of the most horrifying domestic violence PSAs I've ever seen, and probably the scariest PSA ever produced by a political party. It basically takes the premise we saw in Girl by the Prius Foundation back on number 26 to its highest extreme. The song and imagery are absolutely haunting, showing just how much pain revenge porn videos inflict on the victims. To set the record straight, as if I haven't made that clear enough, I don't think this PSA is good by any means. In fact, it was number 8 on my top 20 worst PSAs countdown. That being said, I will give it this. It has an incredibly creepy execution, so I have very mixed feelings about it. On one hand, as someone who has struggled with depression to the point of having suicidal thoughts, I consider the overall message of the PSA incredibly insensitive, but on the other hand, it is a horrifying way of getting the message across not to smoke.
In the Middle Ages, death by torture was an art form. One method involved placing a cage over you. Inside there'd be some rats. Soon, the rats would get hungry, so they'd dine on you. Whatever was left of you would then start to rot. Then, as you're slowly eaten alive, eventually you'd die. Today, people just take heroin.
A PSA history lesson. I've always enjoyed PSAs that play upon history, well, aside from that one Partnership for a Drug-Free America PSA that compares drug use to slavery. And this one is one of my favorites. I love how the narrator calls middle-age executions by torture an art form. It's so extra. And don't even get me started on the visuals that accompany this chilling narration. Being eaten alive by rats and maggots is horrifying enough, but what follows it is just as horrifying with the implications alone. A man going through hell from his heroin addiction, with the implication being that his addiction is causing him to torture himself. And the screams are even more terrifying than the man being eaten alive by rats and maggots, probably because the ones from the heroin addict aren't recognizable as stock screams.
How much brain damage the designer drug Ecstasy causes. It's still being tested. Take Ecstasy, and you're the guinea pig.
This PSA is fucking iconic. It's a favorite of many PSA reviewers, myself included. The look of sheer horror on the test subject's face is something that haunts me to this day, and the music absolutely suits the creepy mood of this PSA. I never noticed it until I was writing my commentary for this entry, but this PSA has such a Fallout vibe to it, like a Fallout Vault experiment vibe to it, and it's perfect. It's best not to make yourself the test subject on an experiment like this.
Kundi ใจเธอไม่มาด้วยเหตุใดจะไปไหนก็ไม่บอก
ทิ้งฉันไว้คนเดียว
คนเดียวที่คิดถึงป่านนี้ใจเธอคิดอะไร
คิดถึงฉันหรือเปล่าว่านอนหนาวหัวใจ
เหงาเกินคำบรรยายเลยเวลาเธอไม่มา
รู้บ้างไหมว่าฉันคอยกำลังใจเริ่มจะทวดถอย
น้ำน้อยๆล้นออกมาคิดถึงเธอแทบใจจะขาดอยากให้เธอกลับมาสักทีคิดถึงเธอทุกวินาทีอยากจะพบเธอคิดถึงเธอแทบใจจะขาดอยากให้เธอกลับมาสักทีคิดถึงเธอทุกวินาทีอยากจะพบเธอคนเดียว
ปีที่ผ่านมาในประเทศไทยเกิดอุบัติเหตุบนท้องถนนทำให้มีผู้เสียชีวิต 22,356 คน และอีก 6,000 คนต้องกลายเป็นผู้พิการ
I first remember seeing this on Luigi Belugi's Top 100 Public Service Announcements, and while I knew I had to put it in at least the top 5, not only is the song heartbreaking as the singers are clearly distraught at the losses of their loved ones, but that's real CCTV footage of the accidents that crippled and killed the loved ones. And even if it weren't for the graphic footage of actual accidents, this PSA is still one hell of an emotional roller coaster, as we see just how much these accidents have torn a hole in the families and classrooms they affected. It's an amazingly well done PSA and an effective reminder to stay safe on the roads.
Suri ram 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 suri ram 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 Suri ram yang darah Aduhai manis wajahmu sayang Geramnya kau buatku rasa Tinggilah tinggi pulang purnama Pintu dah kunci, oh rapat-rapat Sudah lama aku mengidam sayang Malam ini aku mendapat
We'll talk to you about this tomorrow, okay? All right, thank you. See you. Bye. Mei Ling. So, what is this you're drawing? Let's take a look. Okay. Wow, that's beautiful. That's great. Hey, you want to have some fun? Yes? Okay, I'll teach you a song, alright? Goes like this. My itsy bitsy fingers are tickling your knees. Let's play a game. It's just you and me. Just close your eyes and don't make a sound. Let my itsy bitsy fingers touch you all around.
锁匙嘞？你看，你有看到我锁匙吗？
没有。
唉，怎么你头发那么湿啊？来，叔叔帮你抹抹。
哦。
1、2、3、4、5、6、7，我的宝贝在哪里？来这里，来这里，让我抱抱吻吻你。1、2、3、4、5、6、7，让我慢慢摸摸你。一点痛没关系，这是我们的秘密。1、2、3、4、5、6、7。
Ugh, this PSA is complete and utter squick, and I hate fucking talking about it, but I knew making this list it would have to be on there. It makes me feel like I'm the one being touched inappropriately, and it's one of the hardest PSAs, no fuck that, one of the hardest things to watch in my opinion. It's so fucking visceral that it's nauseating. Even worse when you consider these freaks are about to be able to act on their sick desires towards these kids for the sole reason that the kids don't know any better, on account of them not innately understanding that sick bastards like this are very manipulative. All in all, a PSA very deserving of its place on the list. only reason this didn't make it either to my top 25 scariest Asian PSAs or top 75 scariest PSAs countdowns is because it was a pain in the ass to find and download this. Because, well, it's the definitive mood whiplash PSA, and I don't even want to know where the footage of a poor dog being beaten with a kendo stick came from. It's fucking horrifying that someone could abuse a dog like this, especially just to kill and eat it in the end. Sweet Jesus.
Said the little lamb to the shepherd boy, do you see what I see? Do you see what I see? A child, sleeping in the night. He will bring us goodness and light. He will bring us goodness and light.
Truth be told, the only reason I decided to put this as an honorable mention in my top 75 countdown is because, well, my opinion of it is that it's a very stereotypical anti-abortion PSA, which does take away quite a bit of its shock value. Anything you would expect to see in anti-abortion PSA is here. A graphic depiction of an aborted fetus, a Bible quote shoehorned in, a sad child, it's all here. It's not a good PSA in my opinion by any means, but it is one that has made Do You See What I See a very creepy song in my opinion from the point I saw this PSA forward. Never before has Christian imagery been used in such a shocking manner in an unironic way. Oh, hey there, kind viewer. It's me, Antonio, again. Just popping in to give a little auditory warning in addition to my written one in the title screen that, well, you indeed read that written warning right. This PSA does in fact show actual footage of aborted fetuses that were pretty developed. This PSA is pretty goddamn close to as horrifying as it gets, and if you don't think you can handle that, I strongly recommend you skip to the timestamp here while you still can. Don't say I didn't warn you, because I fucking did. Twice, no less. Well, fuck. Not many PSAs make me question some of the placements on my previous lists, but I don't know how the fuck I missed this when making the top 75 scariest PSAs and the top 30 scariest Asian PSAs. I mean, what the fuck is there to say? The visuals themselves are horrific enough since it's clear these fetuses were aborted in a very late term. But the fact that this is actual footage of aborted fetuses floating in one of India's most well-known lakes speaks for itself. Fucking hell. Had I remembered this existed, it would have moved the conference to the number 3 spot on my top 75. It's not quite as horrifying as Stop the Horror, but it's pretty goddamn close. And that, ladies, gentlemen, and fellow non-binary daisies, is the end of another video. Holy shit, this might be my second longest countdown to date. Well, if you enjoyed the video, and I sincerely hope you did since this took me a shit ton of time to make, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and if you've done all these things, join my Discord server, link in the video and description. And if you've done all these things, y'all have a great day. Antonio out. Peace.